Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Sunday night video. This week I am doing a little walk around video of Preston Cemetery, the old part of the cemetery, not the new part. But before I actually begin, can I just say that if you do enjoy this video, then please do give it a thumbs up. And if you are new here or you haven't already done so, then do please consider subscribing to the channel to help support the content we create. It's absolutely free to subscribe to the channels, and it'll just notify you when I upload a new video. So this is the older part. Like I say, there are some amazing graves in here. That one is really fascinating. This part is very overgrown, and it is basically, I would say, a wildlife idea, but it makes it difficult for you to be able to see any of the graves. So if you walk across to the other side, which is quite difficult to do, you will see that there is another footpath which is very muddy, and I am actually it is quite claggy, so I am getting a bit of a claggy foot here, but as you can see it's very overgrown. But there's some amazing old graves with some absolutely fantastic history to them. But unfortunately, because it's so overgrown, you can't really get to see who is buried in any of the graves, because the likes of this one, which unfortunately has fallen, but you can't read it at all. But Preston Cemetery opened in 1856, and it has been in use ever since, and it is one of, if not the largest cemetery in North Tyneside. There is a crematorium here, which I'm sure a lot of local people will know about, which originally was one of the chapels, and that opened for use in 1959. That is quite a fascinating tree grown on the top of that headstone. I'll try and zoom in on it, so I don't know whether you can see that. It's like all twisted branches. So as I say, this really is just a bit of a wander through the cemetery. So if you're local, you may come here yourself, but if you're not, you may be just interested in seeing what the cemetery is like. So there are a couple of well-known people buried in Preston Cemetery that I do want to do a little video about. I'm going to go this way and head towards the little chapel, hopefully. But there are a couple of people who are buried in here who are quite well known, which, as I say, hopefully I'm going to do a little video about. However, their graves are quite difficult to get to, so I'm going to wait until I have all their information about them before I go climbing into the really overgrown areas, because one of them is a really interesting one and does have quite a little bit of history about it, but I don't have that with us. So I think I am waffling a little bit, but that's normal because I often do. So coming up to this part, you can see this is quite a full part of the cemetery now. Some of these, this one here for example that I'm looking at, I think it's 1898, and there's another one over there which is 1899. Now I don't know who was the first person to be buried in here, but I might have a look, see if I can find out and put that in the information when I actually upload the video. So you might be able to hear the grass cutters. And the grass cutters, I think, are working on the newer part of the cemetery, because that part of the cemetery is a lot more taken care of than this part. There's an awful lot of brambles, weeds, and something just fell out of the tree. Oh yeah, and a dead hedgehog, which is not something that I really wanted to see, but I'm not going to film that, obviously. There's also the hogweed, and I think that could even be possibly the giant hogweed, which, as far as I'm aware, the sap from that is a bit poisonous, so I'm not going to touch that. So we're heading down now towards one of the chapels, and I'm just going into this little part here, and just it's not quite as overgrown here, so you can see some of the graves, and as you can see there are lots of them dotted about all over in the overgrown area. But I think obviously if you were looking for anybody in particular, you probably would still be able to find them. So I'm just gonna get down off this bit, hopefully not fall down there, because that's quite muddy and I hope it's not slippy. So I'm just going to come down off there, and I'm just going to go up, like I say, towards this, which is one of the two chapels. The second chapel was incorporated into the crematorium, so it does still retain some of the features, but obviously it is a much bigger building. And this chapel, I'm not certain, but I think this may still be used, but it is really quite impressive, as you can hopefully you can see as it's starting to focus into the light as we're coming out. It is quite impressive. It's got some lovely carving on the top there towards the spire, and also the gargoyles round the top, which I'm going to zoom up on them a little bit and see if they focus. So you can just see them around the top there. They're quite impressive. So I'm not going to be talking all the time, because as I say, it really is just a bit of a walk around Preston Cemetery. I am going to do another video, because Preston Cemetery is a huge cemetery, and I don't want to make a sort of 20-30 minute video. It is, you know, quite a lot. Yes, I do think that is still used. That looks like somewhere that you can still use, so it is possibly used for burials. I don't know a lot about Preston Cemetery. I just happen to have a real interest in the social history side of cemeteries, because every person that's buried here has a tale to tell, a story to tell. Their lives were all incredibly important, and I just love sometimes to find out a little bit about the people so that they never get forgotten, because some of them probably don't have family anymore, and you know, it's just nice to always remember them, know that they're never forgotten. Nobody's ever forgotten. So that is a very interesting looking headstone just coming up to there. No idea how it's for till I get a bit closer, but it really is quite impressive. It's almost as impressive as the chapel. But I'm going to get a little bit closer and see what it is. So that is actually from actually it's actually quite recent, that, so I'm not going to film that because it's more recent than I thought, the memorial on that side. But the one on the other side is from 1883 and 1894. So it's, as I said before, the cemetery is still used. Even in the older part, you still can be buried here if you have a family plot. So that's a really nice little garden over there, which I believe is a memorial garden. There are plaques and flowers and things over there, which is really quite pretty. It's really nice. And then I'm just going to go down to the bottom end here, and basically that's as far as I'm going to go with this video, because as I said, this is a huge cemetery and there are hundreds of graves in here, and I will go around and film the other side at a later date, which is where the likes of Mary Ann Marshall is buried, who was the young girl who was killed in Tynemouth in 1894, I believe. I can't always remember all the dates off the top of my head because I do forget some of them. But like I say, I am now pretty much down the bottom end of the cemetery, and the main road. You can see the cars going past. So I am going to leave this first video here. I do hope that you have enjoyed it. Do let me know if you want to have a wander around the other side of the cemetery later on. Do let me know. And yes, there's a sign there that says this area is being managed for nature conservation and will be left uncut from April until July. So that could be, because it is July, that could be why I'm hearing the sound of a lot of grass cutters and things like that. So they could be just starting to cut all the area where they've left it for the wildlife. And apparently the tree that I am standing underneath is apparently a beech tree. However, kind of looks more like a conker tree to me, but I can't see any conkers on it, so I could be completely wrong. But its leaves are very similar to a conker tree. Anyway, I haven't actually come here to talk about trees, but right, anyway, like I say, if you've enjoyed this little wander around part of Preston Cemetery, do let me know in the comments below if you would like to see a little wander around the other side of the cemetery, which would obviously take in where the crematorium is. Do please let me know, and I will certainly do that. But for now, I hope you have enjoyed this, and thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all again very soon.